What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Before we get started, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps the algorithm on YouTube put this video in front of more people that may find it helpful or useful. So thanks to all of your support over the last month or so when I started posting videos again. I really want to let you guys see behind the curtain kind of what everything in here comes from. So I made this video. The topic of today's video is cars versus real estate investment. Which one is better? And the reason I made this video is because I want you guys and girls to be able to buy exactly the car that you're dreaming about. And the easiest way to do that is to talk about today's topic. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm a blue collar guy at heart. I'm not afraid to use a drill. Okay. Or a saw. Not afraid to use a saw. Okay. I'm a real hard worker. Okay, I spent many a days and sweaty nights crawling through disgusting attics and sketchy crawl spaces and hanging drywall and just coming home covered in dust and dirt and just exhausted from the heat. I even spent some time on a roof in Mississippi. A metal roof, no doubt. It's 100 degrees outside. It's humid. It's just like hell on earth, okay? But that's just part of my experience that I bring back here to you guys. And it wasn't glamorous work, but what I learned from that knowledge has given me the ability to quarterback my crew very effectively. So from 2011 to 2018, this car right here, let's put that on the screen, was my daily driver. Okay, I drove that car every day, drove it everywhere. A 2011 Toyota Tundra with a front bench seat and a rear seat. It was a 4-door pickup truck with an 8-foot bed and a lumber rack. It had the stickiest vinyl seats ever, especially if you got a little sweaty. Oh gosh. It just was the only seat option with the work truck spec. It wasn't possible to get an 8-foot bed in the limited spec because the limited spec had a 5.5-foot bed. Anyways, that's really just for a toy truck, guys. I needed that thing to work. All right, I wasn't hauling my motorcycle around. I was hauling sheets of plywood, pallets of tile, stuff like that. So my dad, he said, "Robert, why don't you just hire a contractor? Why do you want to do everything yourself?" Haha. So I wanted to learn everything hands-on. I wanted to get the skills needed to get my builder's license, which takes 4 years of apprenticeship. And eventually I did, okay? I'll get to the point of all this at the end of the video, I promise, all right? Now, back to that truck. Every dang panel on that truck had dents and scratches from forklift straps, tools, you name it. I paid $38,000 for that car in 2011 and I sold it for $16,000 in 2018, which basically means they probably got $25K for that car retail. 70,000 miles on that car, which is really amazing resale if you think about it. I mean, the cost to own that car per year was just incredibly cheap. I'm sure whoever owns that car now is probably not going to lose money if they ever sell it, because the car really has a ceiling around 15K, I believe, on a private party. So when I was driving that truck a lot, I really usually had it full of stuff, full of my tools and loads going to a job. I usually had sweaty palms, just hoping that I get to the destination safely and on time, and my guys are there and everything like that. Especially with 2,500 pounds in the back or a bobcat behind me and a trailer. It's really sketchy sometimes driving in traffic. Now, one time in particular comes to mind, and this is a cautionary tale for you guys. So one time I was in such a big hurry, I let my new employee load the lumber rack. And holy guacamole, let me tell you guys what happened. This is probably the only reason I don't miss that truck. trust me, I love mashing all over the speed bumps without having to slow down. But you know, if you guys and gals know anything about the amazing product called Trex, this is a plastic decking product. It doesn't rot, doesn't get eaten by bugs. It is great. It is also heavy. It is wobbly, and it is slippery material, okay? So we had about 40 pieces loaded up on the top of my lumber rack, which is basically the rack that sits above the cabin, right? And these are all 16-foot pieces stacked up. And I asked my new employee, I said, you know, are we good to go? Should I double check? He said, yeah, we're on. All the straps are on tight, boss. Let's go. We're ready to go. So again, we're in a hurry. I didn't double check the straps. We went ahead and hopped in the car and started going down the road. And maybe you guys can guess what happened next. But about a mile down the road, we came to a sudden stop, okay? It's four-way traffic. So basically, we hear this thunk, 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 thunk. And my heart just drops. Literally, everything that happened from that point forward was in super slow motion. About 30 of the 40 pieces of Trex come flying, I mean flying off the top of my truck, down my windshield, thunk, thunk, down my trunk, down my hood, and shooting from the stoplight, shooting into the intersection, just like skis down a snowy mountain. I smile now, but I was terrified at that moment. I was absolutely terrified. And my guardian angels must have been watching me really close, because I went home and I prayed that night real hard for gratefulness, because no one got hurt, no one got killed, and there was no tickets given to me from the police. So somehow the car that was in front of me, I remember it was a Cadillac CTS. Somehow that car managed to go ahead and make that light. Maybe they ran the yellow or whatever. Thankfully they did. And so luckily the boards didn't go into that person's rear windshield and hurt somebody in that car. Because when my car came to a complete stop and all the boards shot off the truck, 30 of those boards went screaming down the intersection. For some reason, everybody on all the other three sides had stopped, and they saw what was happening, and everybody was kind of in disbelief. So all these boards piled up in the middle of the big intersection near San Jose Airport, and once they kind of came to a resting place, then all these people started turning left, started driving over the boards. Some people could avoid them, but they were just strewn everywhere, and they were really unavoidable. So we got our green light, and we went to the next curb, pulled over, jumped out. I've never run so fast in my life, just trying to hold boards in two hands and run them out of the intersection, run them back to the truck. And there were some really nice gentlemen at the mechanic shop in the corner who saw what was happening, and they were able to help us. Really nice guys. Never did really get their names, but was just kind of in shock. I was just shaking. Kind of even remembering that moment, it's kind of a little bit terrifying. So needless to say, that employee got fired the very next day. Yeah, and I never strapped down a load other than by myself. I never ever took a load after that without checking it myself, double checking and doing a brake test and all that good stuff. That's the only time it ever happened. That's the only time it would ever happen, period. But yeah, that's one of the very many stories I have from the construction sites. And I kid you not, that construction, it was a lot of fun, and I don't really do that hands-on anymore. My guys pretty much take care of all the hands-on stuff. But if you guys thought I was just some rich fool who bought a broken Ferrari, a limoncello, I just want to let you know you don't have to be rich to be a fool, okay? It is easier to recover from your mistakes when you have deep pockets, though. But seriously, guys, I want to share with you how I went to driving this work truck, right? that was dented on every single panel, not just from the wood flying off the car, from all sorts of activities. I was going to Home Depot about 9 times a day. How do I go from that, doing that every day, to owning multiple supercars and rental properties within the matter of 5 short years? The short answer is not from investing in supercars or flipping cars. We were able to make this leap by investing in rental property, aka investment real estate. A simple blue-collar guy like me started out with one rental house for $700,000 in 2015 that backed up to an expressway. You hear the cars zooming, zoom, 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 zoom in the backyard, to now owning $10 million worth of property. And it's really humbling. And I know my audience is really into cars, just like me. I'm a just total car geek. But let's approach this by talking in terms of the car market. It's the best example of the hottest car market that we've seen in recent history. Some people are kicking themselves for not buying their favorite car. For example, last year during COVID, 911Rs were trading around 300K, even saw a couple trade around 250K, and now they're trading at 500K and over, kind of back to when they just first came out, those prices. It's a 100% increase. It's crazy, right? So that would have been a good investment. But who knows? Who knows that, right? Let's look at a more mild price increase car like a Challenge Stradale 360. Those are trading around 180, 200K. And now they're traded between 220 and 250, which is a 20% price increase. Something like that would be a lot more likely for somebody to have purchased last year. Now, please don't comment below regarding Ford GTs and McLaren Sennas, how they're all worth 300K over sticker brand new. I'm talking about general mass-produced sports cars like maybe the Corvette or 911 or a nice Mustang or Camaro, something like that. Those popular kind of cars. Now back to the Stradale example. If somebody bought it for 180 and now it's gone up to 240, they say, well, Rob, I could have made 60K. That's a good profit, right? Well, there's this thing called opportunity cost. You have to look at what would have been the best use of your money over the course of 12 months. What could you do with that same money and you can make more profit with less work and less risk over the same time period? So if you're looking at cars like investments, they're no longer fun. That's also something to consider. You should be able to drive your cars, no matter how much they're worth, without caring about the mileage or whatever happens to them that you can't control, right? If they go up or down in value, that should bear no weight on how much fun you have with the car. If the car goes up, it's a bonus. Now, let's assume you paid cash for the Stradale and you finance real estate, which is what most people do, okay? The Stradale cost you 200K. Now, you could have put a down payment on a house that costs $1 million, and that's 20% down payment. So when the house goes up 20% and it becomes worth 1.2, basically you've doubled your equity. So you've gone from $200,000 equity to $400,000 equity because, very simple math, people, your house is worth $1.2 million and your loan is only $800,000. So 1.2 minus 800,000 is 400,000. Okay, that's the fastest way you can double your money. Something very simple like that. Now, once basically you want to get out of it, right? You have to pay a commission. So that 400K goes down to about 350K. Okay, and you can take that money and you can go buy a property now with 20% down. You can go buy something for 1.75 million. Okay, hope I'm not going too fast for you guys. So 350,000 is your new down payment at 20% down. The new purchase price is 1.7 million. You started with a down payment of 200,000 and now that's increased to 400K. You paid a commission, boom, you got 350K net left over. You trade up into the next property, okay? Now, when that property that you bought goes up another 20% after you've improved it with some remodeling or minor improvements, you can then sell it for 2.1. Now your equity is increased to around $625,000. Okay? Now, that whole cycle, I know we only talked about it for about 1 minute, but that whole cycle will probably take 4 years for the average person to complete. In the meantime, the property should ideally be breaking even or close to even from your rental income. Otherwise, if you live there, your quality of life is improving, hopefully with each price point that you increase to, right? And you can always rent out the rooms or whatever to make the difference up. Now, to go from $200,000 equity to $625,000 equity is pretty outstanding. I don't know how you can do that with cars. Prove me wrong in the comments, please. If you've done it yourself and you're not a dealer, please prove me wrong. I'd love to know how you did it. I'd love to see a video on it as well. So in a few short years, you've grown your equity from $200,000 to $625,000. Now you have the purchasing power to buy a $2.5 million property. So if this is the home that you now live in, you can refi to buy an investment property and grow your money machine that way. There's so many different ways to do it. There's really no wrong way. You can buy a fourplex. You can live in one of those units. One really important thing is that you secure your family. You have to have a tight family unit, and everybody needs to be on the same page when it comes to investing, because this kind of stuff wasn't taught in school. Everybody thinks you're supposed to get a job, get a 401k, and retire, but investors usually don't have time to teach people, okay, because they're busy investing. Okay, teachers don't have the knowledge to teach real people who want to know if they haven't done it themselves. All right. Now, let's give you an example. Okay, a fourplex around here, which is a 4-unit apartment building, costs between $2 and $2.5 million. That happens to be the same price as a Ferrari Enzo. Now, comparing those two, which one is going to pay for their own carrying costs? Which one will the rent keep going up year over year? And which one can your uncle live in if they need a place for the summer? Ding, 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 the fourplex. That's right. I'm sorry to disappoint you guys, but an Enzo is not a good investment. It's only good if that is your disposable money. Then you're probably okay. It's probably going to be going up in value, but you have to think about all the maintenance costs. I would love to own one day, don't get me wrong. But let's just be realistic. This video is for those people who want to get started in real estate and think they have enough money to buy an exotic car, but and it's an exciting premise, but why would they go buy a boring old house or duplex? So here's some facts for you guys. For the last 200 years, that is 2 centuries, real estate has been the biggest reason people became millionaires. Can you guess by how many percent? Go ahead, comment below. Go ahead. Let me get a drink while you comment below. Okay, it's 90%. 90% became millionaires from real estate. Didn't mean that was what they did for their whole career, but they became millionaires because of real estate as the starting factor. Think about that. Not 25%, not 49%, but 90%, which means the other 10% could be anything, like investment banking or Bitcoin or whatever it is, day trading, whatever you think people get rich from doing. That is the minority activity. Real estate is the 90% activity. Okay? So that's reality for you. Now, it's simple like the game Monopoly. The more land and buildings you own, the more rent you collect and level up. It's a really simple formula. The only thing holding most people back is fear, not ability. Okay? Making wealth in real estate, you don't need to be lucky. I mean, when you buy a new piece of property in the development, say for example, a phase 1 out of phase 4 development housing, the price is usually going to go up over time. Okay, it's called somebody who gets in early. Now, doesn't mean you're not going to make money if you buy in phase 2 or phase 3 or phase 4. It's usually the easiest way to get started investing is a new house because there's very low maintenance costs. Just got to watch the HOA fees. Now, in contrast, when you buy a new car, it just continues to go down, down, down. And then 20 years later, if it's a cool car, it might start to go up slowly in price, right? If it's a quirky car, you might have to wait 30 years for the car to increase in price again. You might say, well, Rob, what about cars like the ZR1 or the Dodge Demon that went up when they're brand new, right? I mean, that's the exception to the rule. I'm talking about the general rule. Look at a regular Corvette or a regular Challenger like most people own, not the limited models. Those just go down, down, down when you buy them, right? Now let's talk about what to do if you can barely afford the car you want to buy and you need to rent it out on Turo to make your monthly payments. That's a terrible idea because you're going to be renting the car out, you're going to be wearing the car out, putting miles on it, making the maintenance, future maintenance cost pretty large. And at the end of, say, 10 years when your car is paid off, you have a car with lots of miles on it. It's not as valuable, and you may own it free and clear, but how does that make you money? That just gets you a car that's worn out after 10 years, right? That just doesn't seem like a good equation to me. Show me in the comments how you've been making money on Turo and keeping your car valuable, okay? So let me explain this in another way that you car guys and gals will understand. So you buy your favorite car and you want to fix it up, and fix it up, what do you mean? You want to put spinners on the wheel, you want to change the upholstery, you want to tint the windows, you want to put a stereo system, you want to put a spoiler, you want to paint the rocker panels, whatever, you want to paint the rear diffuser, whatever it is you're into. Comment below, okay? Before you know it, on your $30,000 car, whatever that may be, you spent 10 grand fixing it up. Man, you love it. It looks fantastic to you. But when it comes time to sell that car, it's literally worth less money than if you hadn't touched it. So you have to put all the original equipment back on, right? I'm pretty sure you guys have experienced it. Car guys all know what I'm talking about. In real estate, it's not like that at all. The improvements you make will be appreciated and you will be compensated for them when you sell that property. You'll be compensated in many, many multiples. I'm not saying paint the walls purple and paint carpet is acceptable, okay? But anything that's done to improve the property in a neutral color scheme, or at least a cohesive, bold design scheme, will make a profit for you. Let me explain some more about how the numbers might look for you. So if you buy a rental property when your tenant will be covering the mortgage and utilities, insurance, all the expenses plus profit, you'll hopefully be saving away for a big ticket item like a new roof or a water heater, some sort of thing that will break in the future. After 10 years of owning this property, guess what? The property is probably worth 2 to 3 times what you originally paid for it. And then it doesn't matter how many miles are on the house. Let's start putting up some before and after photos of some properties that we flipped. Now, these aren't all the properties we flipped, but we could find the photos, and don't have forever to find these photos, but this is what we got to show you guys. And now, the difference between a car buyer and a home buyer is that the car buyer of the exotic car that you own and you rented on Turo can look nationwide and buy that same car, probably with less miles or for a better price. But when you're selling your home, you have people looking in your exact neighborhood, and the demand is going to be really, really driving the price of your properties up because of location, because of land. Location is what drives the price of real estate more than anything else. Now, if you put some money into a remodeling project, say $1 million house, $1 million even, you spend $50K fixing it up, you can probably sell it for $1.2 million. Now, that's how we acquire so much properties, by flipping buildings, homes, small apartment complexes. And I'm renting them the whole time between the acquisition and the final sale date, okay? I'm not going to lay out my whole financial statement here because it's not important, but you guys, if you've seen videos on my channel, you know that I had to spend $40,000 on that Ferrari to make it right for me. Now, I was only planning on spending about 10, so that extra 30 is just something that I had to deal with, okay? It's not something that I wanted to wait and save up and spend. I just wanted to take care of it. It's just one of those things where, you know what, rip the Band-Aid off, take care of it. I want to enjoy the car. I'm not worried about, how much it costs. Yeah, it was a bad thing to experience principle-wise and business practice-wise, but it's not something I'm going to lose sleep over. It's an expense, just had to be made, all right? So be it. Now, to be in a position like that, you have to make good decisions with your investments, right? So once you acquire enough property, then they actually start to cash flow, and that's where you can have some play money and some discretionary income. All right, that's where things get fun. That's what I'm trying to say, is that you have to start somewhere, and you'll be amazed where you end up. So in real estate, you can also do this thing called 1031 exchange, where you basically snowball from a smaller property into a medium property and then to an even bigger size property, because you don't have to pay tax on your gain each sale. The only real tax breaks for vehicles are like the business vehicle deduction with heavy SUVs, vans and trucks and farm equipment. So if you're writing off a Lamborghini purchase, not a lease, as a business expense, I would say exercise caution, sir. So another point I wanted to make is, if you're single, you don't need to convince anybody to buy a supercar. You just go and do it, right? But if you have a spouse and you need to convince them, or you want to convince them, and the car is for you, it's not for them, it's not for you to share, tell them the truth. I mean, tell them you just want a fun car, and tell the truth. Hopefully they're going to support you, and maybe you need to encourage that purchase by buying something for them first, like a purse or jewelry, whatever your spouse is into. Maybe you should try that first before asking, okay? That does tend to grease the wheels a little bit, all right, when you're talking about buying your dream cars, especially if you can afford it, especially if you deserve it, okay? Nothing should hold you back, right? Now, talking numbers, it is financially responsible to buy a car approximately 5 to 10% of your net worth. What is net worth? Assets minus liabilities. Now, how much is it responsible to calculate from your annual income? It's about 35% is a responsible amount to spend from your annual income. And doesn't mean you should spend that much. That should be the max if you really want to be aggressive. Now, let me give you an example that should open your eyes a little bit. Hopefully I'm not offending any of you guys if this is you, but if you live in an apartment complex and you have 5 cars, you are doing it all backwards. You should have a place to store your cars before you buy your car, especially if they're nice cars. You want to keep them inside in an air-conditioned place, away from the rats and the squirrels and people, opening their doors and maybe even keying your car, something horrible. So I'm going to mention which financial advisors have influenced us in the description. When I didn't have much money, I read many of their books cover to cover and just devoured any information I could find of them speaking. Anyways, click on the description below. You'll see who's influenced us the most. So eventually, if you follow some principles I've mentioned, maybe you can move up to having a warehouse or an airplane hangar full of cars. If you haven't purchased a home, please make that your next financial goal. Look, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to get you to invest with me or buy my book or my course. No, this is all free. I haven't posted this anywhere else. And if you don't have the money to buy a property, team up with your parents, your siblings, your in-laws, whoever you need to get into home ownership with. You're probably going to need to convince them a little bit, but there is no perfect path to creating wealth. Only your own path. Okay? Remember, it's monopoly. It's really simple. It's fun. Just get started. The cars and everything will fall into place. For example, when my wife and I started with our first investment home in 2015, it was scary, right? If you would have told me that we'd be where we are now, it would be like a dream that you would have sold me. I would never believe you. I would never believe you. And now that we're here, we're just so humbled and we're grateful. And I want to give you an example. So I'm not bragging, okay? I'm just going to give you an example so you understand what kind of position you can be in if you make the right choices. So most people need to sell the house they're living in order to move. We didn't. We were living in a much bigger house, but it wasn't on the water, and we just said, hey, let's move. Let's get a better house. I want to move on the water and just enjoy life a little bit more. So we just sold one of our investment properties. We cashed out, took that pile of money, and went ahead and bought our next house. We then remodeled it first, remodeled this house first, then we moved in when we were ready, at our own schedule, our own pace, no pressure. Then when we moved into this house, we went ahead and kept that other house that we used to live in and rented it out. Okay, most people sell their house they're living in, and then they have to hurry up and buy the next house within 30 or 60 days. It may not even be the house they want to live in next. So just to give you an idea, you make the right decisions, you invest, then you can have these power positions, which will only make your spouse happier. Trust me on that. Okay, so we're really grateful to be in a place where we can help, the charity that we hold near and dear to our hearts as well. So it's really important. I'm trying to give back with free knowledge to you guys, and hopefully you can share that as well. And some people who've never bought a house, I would say 95% of the people that have never bought a house always tell me one thing. They tell me, Rob, I am waiting for the market to go down or crash like it did, and then I'm going to jump in. We've been waiting 10 years for that to happen. Even if it does, who knows when or how big of a crash, and are you going to have the cash ready? Because when the market crashes like it did last time, you can't get a loan, okay? So that logic really doesn't work for me. I haven't seen anybody be successful with that. In the meantime, you'll manage to find a way to spend your down payment money on something other than a house, which is a shame, okay? So I'm not a financial guru, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a CPA. This is strictly my opinion, okay? Don't take it as legal advice or tax advice or anything like that. It's just my own personal story. I hope one of you guys will appreciate what I shared today. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. There is more Ferrari videos coming up. We definitely have some updates on the car. A couple more things that broke on the car, as well as putting a new exhaust on the car. I'm really excited to let you guys hear what that sounds like. Hopefully that'll be ready in about a week. And I will see you guys soon, okay? Bye-bye.